Welcome in Ribe, Denmark, where Ronald and I have been staying for a good week at the Viking Center here at Ribe, which by the way is gorgeous. We've been doing a lot of techniques and mostly needle binding and sprang, and I wanted to tell you something about sprang and show you how it's done. Sprang is really a very old technique. The oldest piece of textile ever found in Europe is a piece of sprang, and I have a picture here from Peter Collingwood's book. It's a hairnet found at Borum Eshoy here in Denmark, and it was found with a bog body, a woman's body. So it's a ooh, there goes a spider.
A real Danish spider.
It's a lady's cap. It's very complicated and dated 14 centuries BC. So that's really, really old. That's Bronze Age. It's basically gone extinct as a technique. There's a few people like me who still do it, but we are rare. I wanted to show you how it's done, and if you want to do a piece of sprang braiding, you need to have two fixed points. In my case, I have my loom here. My two rods are my two fixed points. The thread in the middle is not going to be part of the actual braiding, but it's going to help me separate the bottom and the top layer. And that will become obvious as I start warping my chain, as it's called. You tie a piece of wool, in my case to the bottom, and when you start warping you basically go under, over, under, over, under, over, and this is what I mean. You go under your safety thread and over the rod, under the rod back down, over your safety thread, underneath the rod, over the rod, under the safety thread, over the rod, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, and so on. You gotta have an even number of threads underneath as you do over the safety line, and I'm gonna go for 6.
Why does the number has to be even?
It's kind of hard to explain, but you'll see why as I start working. It's just easier when you make patterns. You gotta have an equal number underneath as you do on the top. This is my 6th over, under. I'm gonna take my knife, cut it. My knife needs sharpening, and I'll tie it here at the bottom. Now if I put my hands in following the safety line, you can see that I do have 2 layers. See, I have 6 at the bottom, 6 at the top. Basically you are now ready to start your sprang. This is the way it's described in the books, in Peter Collingwood's book, in Tina Abrahamsson's book. But there is another way of doing it that I sometimes do, but the second way of warping is a little trickier. I'll show you. I have to loosen it again and take it all off. This is the safest way of doing it, using that safety line straight from the beginning. But if I do a smaller piece and I work in a thicker wool like I am now, I am arrogant enough to do it in a different way. You just go over the rod, back down again. It's a very logical way of putting a thread over your rods. It's the simplest way of doing it. The risk though is, especially if you work with a great number of threads and your wool is very thin, that you may accidentally do this instead of that. So that's a risk that you take when you do it like this. So again, if you're a beginner, do it the way I showed you first, with the safety line in place straight from the beginning. It's just safer. But like I said, sometimes I'm all arrogant and I think I can do it like this. Doesn't look quite the same as it did before, and that's because I'm not quite done yet. To make sure that the tension is about equal. Now I pick up one from the bottom layer, I pull it up, and one from the top layer goes down. See what I do? One goes up, one goes down, one goes up, one goes down, one goes up, one goes down. Now if I put in the safety thread, I now have the exact same thing as I did before when I warped it the official way. And again, you are ready to start your braiding.